The Washington Post has done it again and given us our latest example of fake news. Minneapolis City Council members who wanted to defund the police have now hired their own private security to protect them. Plus, Nancy Pelosi says it's now time for a national mandate on face masks. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in this past Saturday for our Saturday live stream featuring Kevin Sorbo. It was absolutely awesome. Here's a link to it. Please check it out after the show. You got to watch this show first, but I invite you to check it out. He's already told me he's going to come back. In a few months, we'll get him back on the show. We'll talk even more conservatives in Hollywood, upcoming movies, his politics. It'll be awesome. So please check that out. But for now, we're going to dive into fake news because the Washington Post, you have to wonder what's motivating these people. They step over each other. CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post trying to outdo each other on fake news stories. And this one was so lame, I can't even believe it made it into print. So for background, you know President Trump, he takes a hard line on all this nonsense, the rioting and looting, the destruction of statues and monuments. Back on June 15th, he tweeted this. The far-left fake news media, which had no COVID problem with the rioters and looters destroying Democrat-run cities, is trying to COVID shame us on our big rallies. Won't work. So there, the president's talking about coronavirus and rallies, but he brings up a good point. He brings up the main point that the Washington Post grabbed later, and that is these cities are all run by Democrats. The ones that aren't doing anything, that are letting the rioters and looters run amok, these cities are all run by Democrats. President Trump pointed it out. Then, this past week, he has a joint press conference with the new president from Poland, and he's talking about crime stats, more of the same stuff, and he says this.
And you hear about certain places like Chicago, and you hear about what's going on in Detroit and other cities, all Democrat-run. Every one of them's Democrat-run. 20 out of 20, the 20 worst, the 20 most dangerous are Democrat-run.
So 20 of the top 20 cities for crime, for dangerous crime, violent crime per capita are run by Democrats. That's what he says. And it's just absolutely outrageous. These cities are getting worse and worse and worse, and yet they keep electing Democrats. Why won't they learn? They keep electing the same kind of leadership, and they get the same kind of results. And then the president adds this.
One city or two cities in particular, worse than Honduras, worse than Afghanistan, and these are cities within the United States, Democrat-run, radical left-run.
So this is just insane, folks. This is like a war zone in these cities. Baltimore, Detroit. I often mention Chicago. I brought up the stats from Memorial Day weekend in Chicago and Father's Day weekend in Chicago. Dozens of people die all the time in these black neighborhoods, black victims, and Black Lives Matter doesn't have a march. They don't have a protest. They don't have a rally. They don't do anything about it. The media doesn't cover it. Instead, they want to cover something that statistically never happens, yet they want to make a big deal about it to drive a wedge between people rather than bringing America together. It is absolutely outrageous. And then where the real tragedy is occurring in these inner cities run by Democrats, they're silent. So President Trump made his statement. 20 out of the top 20 cities for violent crime are run by Democrats. Washington Post puts a story together, and here's their headline. Trump keeps claiming that the most dangerous cities in America are all run by Democrats. They aren't. So what is their angle there? That this is one big lie by the president. One big lie. 20 out of 20 cities run by the Democrats, and they say they aren't. Like, oh my gosh, how many Republicans are in this list? He's just making it up. Trump's lying again. He is just fabricating stories to drum up his base. That's their angle, and here's their report. Over and over, Trump has tried to imply that Democrats broadly, and former Vice President Joe Biden specifically, are soft on crime. That is, his likely general election opponent and other leaders in the Democratic Party are happy to have social structures collapse into anarchy for some unclear reason. To make that case, Trump has repeatedly lifted up a statistical factoid, I love that wording, as he did during an event at the White House on Wednesday. You hear about certain places like Chicago, and you hear what's going on in Detroit and other cities, all Democrat run, he said. Every one of them is Democrat run. 20 out of 20. The 20 worst, the 20 most dangerous are Democrat run. It's not clear how Trump is defining most dangerous in this context, so let's look at two related sets of data compiled by the FBI, most violent crime and most violent crime per capita. All right, the article was so interesting to read because they try, after getting into these stats, to then try justifying why cities are run by Democrats, but not tying into the crime. So they put up two charts. I'm going to put these up on the screen. Take a look at this. The first are the cities with the most violent crime. The next is violent crime per 10,000 residents. In the first one, you have to go all the way down to 17 before you find one run by a Republican. Of the top 20 cities with the most violent crime, 17 are run by Democrats, 2 independents, and 1 Republican. Now, if you look at the per capita violent crime, where President Trump referred to, you have 19 out of the top 20 cities run by Democrats. 19 out of the top 20 run by Democrats, and the other one's an independent. So what do you think was going on at the Washington Post? They heard President Trump say 20 out of 20, and some reporter goes to the editor and says, we got him. We got him in a massive Trump lie because he said 20 out of 20, and it's 19. It's 19 out of 20 with an independent. We got him there, and they run with this story. It's absolutely outrageous, folks. And the crime, and what I read to you from the Post, wondering where Trump got his information, it's the same place you just provided to us. These crime stats, which show 20 out of 20, with 19 being a Democrat, 1 independent. That's where he got it. Same place you did. And you're trying to spin it to mean something else. It's just outrageous. So next we're going to talk about outrageous. We're going to talk about Minneapolis City Council members. But first, if you love the show, folks, if you're new to the show, maybe tune in for the first time to see Kevin Sorbo, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. We're making our push for 100,000 subscribers by Election Day. 100K by Election Day, and we can get there with your help. All right, so now Minneapolis City Council. Remember, they voted to defund the police, to disband the police. The police have to go, yet they don't know who's going to replace them. They don't know how it's going to be replaced. They don't know what that's going to look like, but the police have to go. Well, 3 of those city council members who voted to defund the police now have their own private security, and the taxpayers are footing the bill. So they don't like the police, but they sure like to be protected. And here's a report from the Daily Caller. Minneapolis is spending $4,500 a day on private security for 3 city council members who support defunding the police after allegedly receiving threats, a local report published Friday showed. Private security details cost Minneapolis taxpayers roughly $63,000 over the last 3 weeks, a spokesman for the city said, according to a Fox 9 report. Council members Andrea Jenkins, Philip Cunningham, and Alondro Cano are outspoken supporters of efforts to defund the Minneapolis Police Department, the report stated. So, none of these folks respond to the Daily Caller's request for interview, but some of them did speak to the local Fox 9 about this incident, and here's what they said. Cunningham did respond to Fox 9's request for comment, telling the outlet through a text message that I don't feel comfortable publicly discussing the death threats against me or the level of security I currently have protecting me from those threats. The security detail is temporary, he noted. Jenkins said she has been asking for security since she became a council member. My concern is the large number of white nationalists in our city and other threatening communications I've been receiving, she wrote in an email. Story goes on to report that according to the police, none of these city council members, none at all, have filed any kind of reports with them on these death threats that they've been receiving. They've received no report. But again, I guess if you've got your own private security, there's no reason to call the cops. In the meantime, the taxpayers are paying for all of this. Way to go, Minneapolis. So next, I want to talk about Nancy Pelosi, because this media, the Democrats are going crazy now because there's new tests, there's a spike in positive cases for coronavirus, and everyone's freaking out like the world's going to end. She was on ABC News this week with George Stephanopoulos on Sunday talking about this, and here's how Stephanopoulos started.
Hey, let's start out with this COVID crisis. It's pretty clear we are failing in this country to stop the spread. How do we fix it?
All right, see, so you know where the interview's going there. He says, we've done nothing. We failed to stop the spread. That was never the goal. The goal was to slow the spread enough so we don't overwhelm hospitals. That was the flattening the curve. Now they move the goalpost. Now they change it to where we can't have a case. I saw Joe Biden talk about, oh man, we've got to wear these masks because, someday they'll come up with a cure or a vaccine. So now that's it. We're supposed to all wear masks. We're being mask shamed until there's a vaccine. That's absolutely outrageous. That wasn't the goal before, and now they're changing it. And it just drives me absolutely nuts, folks, because I've talked about this before. They said, oh, don't compare it with the flu. Well, if you do, you find for the vast, vast, vast majority of people, it is more mild than the flu. Remember, the stats have not changed. 80 to 85% who get this will have little to no symptoms. 99.4% of the people who die already have some major ailment. 99.4%. We can identify those people. Those people can identify themselves and take precautions. Be careful while the rest of the people can go on. We shouldn't be stopping the spread. If it's this mild for most people, it should spread and burn out just like the flu. It flares up, it goes away. No one quarantines, no one wears masks. Now that we're told to wear masks, bandanas and other cloth can't stop the virus. We know that. And just look at the data. Look at what's really going on. I want to put up a couple charts before we get to Pelosi's response, but just check out what's going on. We'll put up the first chart. All right, this is the daily deaths in the United States. And as you can see, the trend is down, down, down ever since early April. The one high point at the end comes with a note that says some states included probable deaths in there. Why? Who knows? We can't trust this data anymore. We know even from Dr. Birx during a press conference on the coronavirus task force that they're labeling anyone that has coronavirus positive test as a coronavirus death. Even if they were already near death for something else, it's listed as a coronavirus death. It's absolute. We know that, okay? But you see the trend anyway. Here's another chart. We'll put this one up. This one makes it a little smoother because it includes 2-week rolling average of daily deaths. And you can see down and down and down. That's the trend. That's what they wanted to. And one more to contrast. Here's the tests. And you can see ever since we started adjusting this, the number of tests per 1,000 people keeps going up and up and up. Testing goes up. Daily deaths keep going down. That's the trend. There'll always be little spikes. But this whole idea that we just have to quarantine everybody when we should be getting it out of our system, getting it done so that we can interact more with those who are vulnerable, it absolutely makes no sense. But anyway, that's how George Stephanopoulos started it, and here's Pelosi's response.
We can fix it by passing the HEROES Act, which we haven't. A major pillar of it is to open our economy by testing, tracing, treating, isolating, wearing masks, washing your hands. There is a way to do it. And instead of what the administration did, deny, delay, death.
Deny, delay, death. That's what she says. This is the woman who, when President Trump was shutting down travel from China, she went out in San Francisco's Chinatown and said, come on out. It's safe. Look at me. I'm walking around. It's all good. And now she's saying that. And then Stephanopoulos asked, is it time to mandate masks nationwide? And here's her response.
Oh, I definitely long overdue for that. And my understanding that the Centers for Disease Control has recommended the use of masks, but not required it because they don't want to offend the president.
So that's what Nancy Pelosi's saying. And again, folks, it's just if we keep on this trend, if we keep impinging on our rights and shutting everybody down, we are never going to get through this. We get through it by just letting it run its course. If we keep quarantining, every time we reopen up, there's going to be a spike. And what are we supposed to do? Shut down again? Then we can't get through it. This just prolongs what should be easy for most people. It's just absolutely nuts. We see the stats, and yet now Joe Biden, as well as Nancy Pelosi, are pushing these orders. It's absolutely insane. So next, I want to talk about this culture that we're seeing with tearing down monuments. Everything's changing. We talked about it in Relaxed Brain. These rock bands that are changing their names, all because of this politically correct Black Lives Matter movement. We can't culturally appropriate. We can't do anything to offend anybody. Now it's even made it down here in Houston. The Houston Association of Realtors is changing the name of master bedroom. That's not going to be a thing anymore, according to them. And here's the report. The Houston Association of Realtors announced the end of a long tradition of designating certain bedrooms and bathrooms as master. The change follows weeks of protests over racial equality and issues relating to the Confederacy. The MLS Advisory Group regularly reviews the terms and fields used in the MLS to make sure they are consistent with the current market environment. Houston Association of Realtors, HAR, officials wrote in a statement published to KTRK ABC 13 in Houston. The updates to primary bedroom and primary bath were among the 9 requests for review that were submitted by members and considered at the most recent meetings. So master bedroom is gone. Master bathroom is gone, replaced with primary. And when you read the statement, you know it's all because of concern for diversity and inclusion and cultural sensitivity. Here's more. In a statement about the switch from master to primary, HAR wrote, "The topic has been raised and considered for many years, so it was not a new suggestion to review the terminology. Many home builders stopped using the term master bedroom years ago." I've never seen one. The overarching message was that some members were concerned about how the terms might be perceived by some other agents and consumers. The consensus was that primary describes the rooms equally as well as master while avoiding any possible misperceptions. All right, so my question is this. Who has the possible misperceptions? Who has not heard of the master bedroom or the master bathroom? If you go look at a house, if you look at house plans, who has a misperception of that? Who has never heard that? I'd like to know who that is. If you're one of them, please let me know in the comments. Let me know what you thought of Nancy Pelosi and coronavirus and the Washington Post outrageous fake news, because that's our show for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified, and we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.